The HOA thought they could push around my wife. They thought they could trespass, intimidate, and threaten her into submission. What they didn't know was that she wasn't defenseless, and she wasn't alone. Standing beside her were Brutus and Delta, two retired military K9s trained to take down armed suspects in combat zones. When the HOA tried to teach her a lesson, they walked into a fight they could never win. But this story didn't start with a fight. It started with something much smaller. It was a quiet Tuesday morning when I found the first letter. Taped crookedly to our front door, the HOA president's handwriting was sharp and hostile. Remove the dogs, they disrupt property values. I actually laughed when I read it. Dogs lowering property values? That was a new one. But my wife, Elaine, didn't laugh. She'd dealt with HOA types before. She knew exactly how far they'd go. Fines, intimidation, even lawsuits if they wanted to bleed you dry. And Brutus and Delta weren't just pets. They were family. Loyal partners who had served beside me overseas before I retired. A German Shepherd and a Belgian Malinois, both trained in combat zones, both disciplined enough to hold back even in the most stressful situations. But Karen, the HOA president, didn't see family. She saw weapons, and that meant trouble. A second letter came. This one wasn't taped to the door. It was slid under it in the dead of night. Comply, or it will get worse. That was when I noticed the drone. At first, I thought it was a kid messing around, but then it dipped too low, circling over our backyard, just above the fence line. Delta growled deep in her chest, hackles raised. Brutus paced like a caged lion, eyes locked on the buzzing machine. I tracked it with binoculars that night, following it through the trees until I saw it land right on Karen's balcony. When I confronted her at the next HOA meeting, she didn't even deny it. She just smiled, her teeth flashing in the fluorescent lights of the community center. Neighborhood safety requires oversight. If you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. That smile chilled me, because this wasn't about safety, it was about control. The harassment escalated fast. Boot prints started appearing near our shed. The fence rattled at night. Brutus barked at shadows, while Delta prowled like a soldier on patrol. Then came the compliance officers. 4 men in cheap uniforms marched up our driveway, clipboards in hand, spouting legal-sounding nonsense. Your fence violates Municipal Code Section 14B. Tear it down immediately. But when I checked, that code didn't exist. They were bluffing, using intimidation tactics under the color of law. I reminded them of Title 18 U.S. Code 242, the federal law against depriving someone of their rights under color of authority, but they just smirked. One leaned in close and muttered, "Some rules aren't written down." That was when I knew this wasn't about dogs or fences. It was personal. It was Saturday, clear skies, kids playing on the street. Elaine was out front tending her flowers, Brutus and Delta sitting obediently nearby. That's when they came again. 4 compliance enforcers this time, not even pretending to be professional. Karen trailed behind them, phone in hand, filming everything like she was about to live stream our downfall. "Remove the dogs, remove the fence, or we remove you," one of them barked. Elaine stood tall, calm, firm. "This is private property. You can't be here without a warrant. Leave." They didn't. One stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "We don't need a warrant. HOA authorization is enough." That was a lie. HOA rules can't override state or federal law, and under Penal Code 602, trespassing is a crime. But these men weren't here to argue law. They were here to use force. I was halfway down the driveway when the first one lunged for Elaine. Big mistake. Brutus moved first, a missile of muscle and discipline. He hit the man square in the chest, knocking him flat onto the pavement. His breath whooshed out in a single gasp as Brutus stood over him, growling low, controlled. Another thug swung a metal rod at Delta. Wrong move. She darted sideways, fast as lightning, then clamped onto his forearm with a perfect bite hold. He screamed, dropping the rod instantly. But Delta didn't shred him. She immobilized him. Perfect discipline. Karen shrieked, "Call them off! Call them off!" Elaine's voice cut through the chaos like a general on the battlefield. "Delta, hold!" Instantly, Delta froze, jaws locked, pinning the man without tearing flesh. The third thug charged, trying to flank Elaine. "Brutus, drive!" The German shepherd slammed into him mid-stride, sending him sprawling into the dirt, groaning. By now, the whole neighborhood had poured out, phones recording, voices shouting, "They're trespassing! Call the cops! Karen's lost her mind!" The last thug tried to crawl away. "Delta, release!" Elaine's voice was sharp, commanding. Delta let go immediately, trotting back to her side, sitting obediently like nothing had happened. That was the difference between pets and trained soldiers. Karen's face twisted into pure rage. "This is assault! Your animals are out of control!" I stepped forward, my phone still recording. "No, Karen, under California Civil Code 3342, liability doesn't apply if a dog defends its handler from trespassers committing a crime. You just filmed your own men attacking my wife." Her smile cracked. The neighbors murmured, all of them siding with us. The HOA's intimidation had backfired. By the time the sheriff's deputies arrived, Karen had already twisted herself into full victim mode. "They set their attack dogs on us. These animals are weapons. I demand they be destroyed." Her thugs groaned in the background, clutching their arms and chests, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. Elaine calmly clipped leashes on Brutus and Delta. They sat perfectly still, calm, alert. Not wild, not dangerous, just professionals. That discipline spoke louder than Karen's hysteria. I handed the deputy my phone. "You'll want this. Everything's on video." He watched the trespass, the threats, the lunges at my wife, and the dogs responding exactly as trained. His jaw tightened. "Ma'am, you and your associates are under investigation for criminal trespassing under Penal Code 602 and assault under Penal Code 240. Those dogs didn't attack without cause. They defended their handler from an imminent threat." Karen's voice cracked. "That's not true. HOA rules—" The deputy cut her off. "Don't supersede state law. You had no authority to enter this property or put your hands on anyone. You're lucky those dogs are trained. A lesser animal could have killed someone." Karen tried one last desperate move. "Then fine, charge me. But at least those beasts get put down. That's what happens when dogs bite people." The deputy shook his head. "Wrong again. Civil Code 3342 specifically exempts dogs who defend their owners from trespassers committing crimes. These animals won't face consequences. You will." The crowd erupted in cheers, phones still recording. Karen's meltdown was going viral in real time. The deputies cuffed her right there on the sidewalk. Her face burned red as they read her rights. Her thugs were loaded into cruisers, whining louder than before. Elaine knelt beside Brutus and Delta, hugging them tight. Their tails wagged, eyes bright, proud of their work. "You see that?" I said, smiling. "They didn't just protect you. They exposed Karen for what she really is." Elaine looked at me, fierce but proud. "They're not just dogs, they're family. And Karen just learned the hard way what happens when you mess with family." That day changed the neighborhood. The HOA's reign of intimidation was broken. Neighbors who had once stayed silent now stood with us. Phones kept recording, spreading the truth far beyond our street. And Brutus and Delta? They weren't just heroes in our eyes anymore. They were legends. For the first time in years, our home felt safe again. And I knew one thing for sure. Brutus and Delta had just written their names into HOA history.